Some lady put out a thing recently that yelling is as bad as sexual abuse. No, it's not. No, it's not. Get out of fantasy land and stop with this gentle parenting. And look at our society. It's fallen apart.
Gentle parenting, we've talked about it on the show many times. Everybody's doing it in this new age, except for me and people that have our senses and realize that children are actually meant to be disciplined. I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this really funny.
Children are meant to be disciplined. Children are born troublemakers. They just are. They have no rules. They don't know any way of being yet. Yes, they can be sweet and they can be loving and they're cute, but they're little devils if you don't put them in line. And this gentle way of handling little devils is clearly not working. Look at what's going on. Look at, we started this somewhere around 20 years ago where everybody got a participation trophy and we couldn't yell at our kids. And now they're saying that some lady put out a thing recently that yelling is as bad as sexual abuse. No, it's not. No, it's not. Your kids need to have a skin because the world is harsh, terrible place. It just is. Get real. You think that you can change human nature by making your children weak? All you're doing is making your children weak and unable to handle even the slightest bit of challenge in life. It's so annoying. I'm so over it.
Sketch. Don't worry, no child was harmed in the making. There's no child in the background. This guy is just being funny. This is just for humor. Take a listen.
Hey. I know you're frustrated, okay? I know you're having these big feelings that you don't know what to do with. But if you don't shut the up and put your shoes on, then I'm gonna start having big feelings and I might start screaming, which is gonna make you have even bigger feelings. Isn't that scary? Yeah, so let's slip those Crocs on, okay?
Very funny. Me attempting gentle parenting would look something like that. And of course, no, we don't swear at our children or anything like that. But I don't tolerate my children throwing temper tantrums. Obviously, I got into this just a little bit a few weeks ago when I was talking about why I have zero tolerance, a zero tolerance.
So I look at parents who try this gentle parenting thing. The kids are always crying, always having tantrums, meltdowns multiple times a day. I mean, Sonny went weeks without meltdowns. And the only times he usually had a meltdown every Friday afternoon. And this is around like 3, 4, or 5 when he was going to little school every day. And he was exhausted by the end of the week, as most people are. So he was just delirious with tiredness. It wasn't because he was a brat. This kid, though, never had meltdowns. Why? Because he wasn't allowed to. When I said no, it meant no. There were rules, and he had a very pleasant childhood because of those rules. They need an alpha dog. It doesn't mean you have to be mean to your kid, but it does mean you don't tolerate bad behavior. And every single gentle parent I know has a child that is so stressed out and miserable that I feel sorry for these children. So yeah, they're not getting yelled at, but their anxiety levels are through the roof and they can't cope with life or any sort of challenge whatsoever. You see it, watch it, go out there, look for it.
College campuses, when people come up to me and they whine because I can't be your mommy. That's why I am not here to be your mother. I don't allow this whining and people throwing temper tantrums. And I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. People think that typically that is permissible, that you should expect that 2-year-olds are going to throw temper tantrums and throw themselves on the floor. Yeah, you should expect it, but you should not accept it. You are rearing them to be responsible adults. And so we very much believe in discipline in our household. We love ourselves a good timeout if they need it. Because I always say to my son, look, it's very clear right now that you need some you time, obviously. And I actually need some me time. So we're going to put you in. No, I don't want a timeout. Very effective.
I totally disagree with Candace on timeouts. They're a complete waste of time. You're the adult. What you say goes, period. The one thing that worked for me with Sonny, I never had to hit him. Sure, I yelled at him. But deprivation. Here's the deal. Either this is how it's going, or that toy is coming away, or you're not watching TV tonight when we get home. And I stuck with it. It was pretty easy. You just have to, if you're going to inflict a punishment, make sure that it's reasonable, it fits the crime, and as a parent, you're not punishing yourself. You don't say no TV for a month, because of course you're going to renege on that, because that's torture for everybody. But be reasonable. But let's go with this timeout, go sit alone. Come on, give me a break. Sorry, Candace.
Parenting strategy for my son. So why are we talking about this? Well, because the internet is currently divided when it comes to a circumstance. There is a mother that is slamming a Georgia restaurant. It's called Taqua Riverside, after they charged her $50, get this, for being unable to parent her badly behaved children. So I'm going to ask you whose side you are on in this predicament. So first and foremost, let's just get to what actually took place. The young woman, her name is Lindsay Landman, and her husband Kyle are slamming the restaurant in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And they left a review on Google saying that the owner came out and told them that he was adding $50 to the bill because of their children's behavior. Now, they have 3 young boys ranging from the ages of 3 to 8 years old. They were also with 4 other families, so it was a total of 11 children that sat at this table. So you can only imagine how insane the level of energy must have been, of course, when you have that many children. But particularly, I guess there was some focus on their 3 young boys' ages. Again, 3.
All right, here's a situation where everybody's an asshole. Because that can happen. There doesn't have to be this one's right, this one's wrong. Okay, if you're in a restaurant and you're not controlling your kids, you are automatically an asshole. Your children should know how to sit down in a restaurant and conduct themselves. I understand it's exciting when you're there with 10 other kids. I mean, that's a lot of kids. We used to go out all the time with Sonny's hockey team, Sonny's baseball team, Sonny's lacrosse team. We always all went out in teams out to dinner, and the parents would sit at one table and we put the kids in another, and one of us would always be over there going, pull yourselves together, because they got rowdy. You know, it's I get it. But it was our fault if we allowed it, and it is their fault 100%. Now, the restaurant owner in this case is also an asshole. Sometimes you just have bad customers that are hard to deal with. You don't throw on an extra jerk tax, even though you want to. You might even say to them, please don't come back, because this was miserable for my staff, and we're going to have to spend an hour just cleaning up your area because your kids are little monsters. That's fine. But to put a tax on somebody because they're jerks in a restaurant, you're in the hospitality business. And whatever you think, if you're in the hospitality business, you should be serving without grumbling, unless a customer is just downright abusive, in which case you can say, hit the road. That's it. I was a waitress. I've done that. I've kicked people out. What are you going to do? It happens every now and then. Everybody, this whole situation.
2 8. Now, the way Lindsay's telling the story, she says the kids were sitting at one end of the table and they were being so good. I even commented halfway through the meal, I can't believe how well behaved they are. So I'm just going to pause right there and tell you that because Lindsay is saying that her children were perfectly behaved and her husband is saying that thereafter, while he was paying the bill, the children were escorted outside by his wife and they ran around and there was no further incident, I can tell you that they're lying. Because if you have 3 young boys ages 3 to 8 years old, even if you leave the restaurant and you go, they were mostly well behaved, they were not perfectly well behaved. So if your storyline is that your 3-year-old at a restaurant was perfectly well behaved, you just are probably not telling the truth. Least of all when it's a boy, they have more energy. Least of all when there's 3 boys. But that's the story, and they're sticking to it.
Oh my God, one time Sonny and his friends, they were gone in the bathroom, and we were like, where are these little brats? We know they're up to something. And they were waiting out. What they had done was they were waiting outside the bathroom at this restaurant, and every time somebody went in and went into a stall, they would reach in and turn off the lights on them. I mean, they were so bad, you know? And of course we yelled at them and we apologized and we made them get back in their seats and stay in their seats so they could cause no more mayhem. But the kids, there's no way they're behaving well. If you give them even an inch, they're going to be bad because, again, they're little devils. That's how they go. That's why gentle parenting doesn't work. Oh, darling, please don't do that. Give me a break. You think that kids are going to stop bullying because you made your kid a weakling? That's just completely ignoring human nature. A great way to stop bullying is to allow a small amount of bullying. So when a kid gets his feelings hurt, he understands how it feels. And that's the way to teach a kid to not do that to other people. See how you didn't like how that made you feel? Yeah, don't do that to other people, you little jerk. Period. It's that simple.
So they're saying that they were expecting, as his wife took the 3 children outside, for the owner to come out and give them a compliment when they saw him approaching. But rather than get a compliment, they were shocked when they were told that there was going to be $50 added to each of their bills at the table because of the way the children were acting. He says, Lindsay says that when they asked for an explanation, the manager, whose name is Tim Richter, said it was because the children were being so loud. He was also angry that they were running around outside, even though they were chaperoned by adults. They're disputing his claims because he says their children were quiet the entire time. He has no idea why the manager then got in their face.
Okay, so this is another epidemic, is the parents who say, not my child. My child is perfect. There's no way. This is the one when the teacher sends home a note about the kid being bad, the mother goes after the teacher instead of looking at the kid and saying, what'd you do? What'd you do? Because you know what? Chances are, statistically speaking, it was the kid being a little brat. These people who say, my kid never did anything, and now you got it being talked about by like Candace Owens and the biggest influencers on the internet. You're just making a fool out of yourself. Your kid was most likely an asshole at some point during this dinner, and now you are. Everything is, no, not my kids. My kids are perfect. Get out of fantasy land and stop with this gentle parenting, this helicopter parenting. My kid can never be accused of any wrongdoing. My kid doesn't even do anything wrong. Really? Really? You know who never did anything wrong in his whole life? Jesus. That was the only one. The rest of us, little mongrels running around until somebody straightened us out. It's the truth.
And told them that he belonged at a Burger King and not at his restaurant. So again, just being a person with common sense, you know this owner did not just randomly decide to thug some kids and go up in their dad's face and say that they belong at a Burger King because he watched 3 saintly behaved boys and said, I'm going to pick on these kids today. Obviously, the kids were misbehaved, but
I don't care if you're in Burger King. Be a lady, be a gentleman. Teach your child how to have table manners. Nobody has manners anymore. Everybody just gets to honor their own feelings and their own whims every minute of every day. And look at our society. It's fallen apart. You don't understand, if you're young and you're listening to this, how just 20, 30, 40 years ago, good manners were the norm. Truly, tolerance was the norm. If somebody was a jerk, you kind of just tried to look the other way and did your best to walk away from it, and or just, maybe tell them off even to straighten them out, but you carried on and you tried to be a lady, say please, say thank you, chew with your mouth closed, sit at the table. I don't hear anybody ever say elbows off the table anymore. And it might seem like just a silly arbitrary rule, but it was something that held us all together, a common thread of decency and grace. And everyone has come so far in the just attacking all the things that held us together that we now can't even correct children on how to act in a restaurant. Yeah, no way these kids were good. I don't even want to hear another word of this. I'm done. And Candace, stop with the timeout. You shouldn't have to negotiate with your kids.